charged with police reform and reinvention. It is a collaborative process to establish, which must involve the entire community in the discussion, review the needs of the community served by its police agency, and evaluate the department's current policies and practices, establish policies that allow police to effectively and safely perform their duties, develop police policy recommendations resulting from this review, offer a plan for public comment, present the plan to the local legislative body to ratify or adopt, and certify adoption of the plan to the state budget director on or before April 1st, 2021. With me on this Zoom conference meeting are the members of the committee. They were selected by me to fit the governor's requirement of community stakeholders as follows: membership and leadership of the local police force, members of the community with emphasis on areas with high numbers of police and community interactions, interested nonprofit and faith-based community groups, the local office of the town attorney, the local defense attorney, and local elected officials. The members are Patty D'Agostino, President of New Dawn Board of Directors; Charlotte Biancone, resident and former town employee; the Reverend Nikki Edelman, Stevens Memorial United Methodist Church; Sergeant Andrew Llewellyn, Lewisboro Police Department; Gregory Monteleone, Lewisboro Town Prosecutor; Moira Morrissey, Chief Executive Officer of Four Winds; Andrea Rendo, Attorney and Town Resident; Ron Ross, current Town Resident and retired School Superintendent; Stephen Siciliano, John Jay High School Principal; Richard Sclaren, Attorney and Town Resident; Police Chief David Alfano; and myself as Chair, Supervisor Peter Parsons. As this is a public meeting, we are seeking public input from those associated with the town of Lewisboro. Therefore, any residents of the town of Lewisboro, property owners in the town of Lewisboro, or business owners in the town of Lewisboro may request permission to speak. If you would like to speak when we open the floor to the public, please do the following to virtually raise your hand on Zoom. Place your cursor at the bottom of the window and you will see an image of people labeled participants. Click the image. A panel will open on the right-hand side of your screen. You can then raise your hand from the icons at the bottom. Participants who have raised their hand will show up on the host screen in the order that you have raised your hand. The host will then unmute you and tell you that you have the floor. You may also have to unmute yourself if your microphone isn't active. We are also asking that your video be off during the duration of the meeting and only turned on when you're invited to speak, unless you're a member of this committee or a member of the town board. Prior to sharing your thoughts or asking a question, please state your name and the hamlet with which you are associated and how. If you dialed in on a phone, you can raise your hand to indicate you want to talk by pressing *9. Please keep your comments to 2 minutes. If someone is disrespectful or uses profanity, they will be asked to leave the virtual meeting, just as they would be asked to leave a physical meeting. Please remember that profanity will not be tolerated in any form at any time, including gestures and acronyms when your camera is on. Now, please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the
flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. The areas I want to cover are your individual interactions with the Lewisboro Police, both those initiated by you and those initiated by them. The police department's role as first responders, traffic control, opioids and domestic violence, the school resource officer position, your ideas on how we should build mutual trust and support. I'd like to begin by inviting people to give me their individual interactions with the Lewisboro Police, whether initiated by them, by you, or initiated by the police. Who wishes to speak?
Peter, I have two hands up currently.
Okay.
The first one I'm asking to unmute is Chief Jim McManus. I'll ask him to unmute.
I'm here, folks.
And do you want to show your video?
Yeah, I'd love to.
And I just ask you, there you go.
First off, good evening, members of the committee, Supervisor Parson, Chief Alfano, and Sergeant Llewellyn. I wanted to take time out of my schedule to make sure I was a part of this meeting. As someone which not many people in this meeting, I think, say, works with Lewisboro Police on a daily, if not multiple times per day basis, I wanted to come and share my sentiment with not only the committee, but use this time as feedback for Chief Alfano and Sergeant Llewellyn, to just convey the fact that our police force here in town is comprised of some of the most professional folks that I've worked with throughout my almost 15-year career in emergency services to this town. I've also worked with state police. I've worked with county police. I've worked with multiple different police agencies throughout the state, and none come close to the level of professionalism that we can expect out of the Lewisboro Police Department. I think first, as a chief of an emergency services organization here in the town, I can tell you with utmost certainty that these folks are well-trained. They are, again, professional, and they can be counted on to carry out the best wishes for this town. I've worked with Lewisboro Police Department on some of the simplest calls and some of the most dire calls that I can remember in my career. And every time that I can look back, the Lewisboro Police are right there assisting us, making sure that not only the scene is safe, that our members stay safe. They're always there, maybe not in the thick of things, but always there making sure that everybody comes home to their families, which in our line of work is quintessential. Just the other night, we responded to a gentleman who had a pretty serious bleeding condition, a hemorrhage from his leg. And the Lewisboro Police were the first through the door. So folks, Janet, I see your sign. Let me
I'm sorry.
I'm just saying that our town police department is led by the best and is comprised of the best. And I don't see any reason for trying to change any of that. So thank you, members of the committee, Chief Alfano and Sergeant Llewellyn. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you. Thank you, Jim. Next, all it says is iPhone, so I'm not even sure who to ask to unmute, but I am asking you to unmute.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a video?
Hi. Yep.
Okay.
Mhm.
We have your name and what hamlet you live in.
Susan Rotundi in Cross River.
Okay.
Just want to say that being like voted the #1 safest town means a lot. Our police department reflects that. And it's very important, especially in today's times, to feel safe. And I've had a lot of interactions from various circumstances that I think the police handle very professionally. And it means a lot to me that I want to have the police there when we need them. And that's all I want to say right now.
Okay, thank you very much. Peter, next. I'm asking Denise Frasca to unmute and to turn on video if she'd like.
Okay. I can't seem to unmute. It says,
No, we can hear you.
okay, so I can't
There you
unmute.
are. Yep,
Oh,
there you are.
Oh, great.
Mhm.
All right. So I think my husband wants to start first, so you can
Sure.
introduce yourself.
I'm Tony Frasca. Denise and I are longtime residents of Goldens Bridge. I think we're going on 36 years. I would just endorse what my friend Jim McManus said earlier. I am a 30-year veteran of LVAC. I think I am, unfortunately, now the longest riding member there, which I can't imagine how the time went so quickly. I, too, have had many, many interactions with Lewisboro PD from the early days when we all first became certified first responders before the EMT designation was required by the state, and through the many years where we now have all sorts of equipment, including the Lucas devices and defibrillators and all sorts of other things, Narcan. They too are, as Jim said, they're very professional. I always feel assured on a call when they're there that things will not spiral out of control, whether it's an EDP call or a simple lift,
People might not know what an EDP is.
emotion disturbed person call, or a simple lift. I'm always happy that they're there lending a hand, and I always have found them to be willing participants, and for that matter, so are the state troopers. Thank you.
And I just wanted to say that we support the police, and we feel like we feel very safe in Lewisboro. And what I'd like to see when reimagining, thank you, is that we give them more support in the areas that they feel like they need the support, and more education in the areas where they feel they need education. And that's the reimagining that I would like to see for the police. Thanks.
Thank you both. Okay. Next hand up I see is Jimin. Jimin, I'm asking you to unmute and to start your video.
Hi everyone. I'm really glad that we're having this conversation. I'm really glad to see Charlotte Biancone on this committee. Hi, Charlotte. I want to say that several years ago, when my mother had a stroke, we had to call the Lewisboro PD to our house because my father had this incredibly sort of a psychic break. It was very difficult. And I was hoping that we would have the resources, that we'd have somebody besides the police to call to help us with a potentially very violent situation. And instead we found that we didn't locally have anyone but the police. So I'm glad to be having this conversation just because I don't think it's fair. I think we need to think about ways, because our crime is so low, absolutely, it's a wonderful thing, but I don't know if that's necessarily because we have police doing this for us. I think that we have other issues, we have domestic violence, we have mental health. In my family situation, it was very difficult, and luckily, and I was very nervous because in this situation, I don't think people with guns should have been handling this situation. And I hope that in our future we can have other resources to handle these situations, and that it's not all on this. I also, sorry, thank you. I see the 30 seconds. I also just want to say that we're not isolated in this moment. This is an opportunity for us to look at how the police function overall as a country. Clearly, we have a problem. And I think that rather than seeing this as some kind of we're not saying that police are terrible. We just need to think about what has happened here that we have the police doing so much. Okay, thank you, and to support Black Lives Matter and the efforts that are trying to be made to really change this system. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jimmy. Next. Next, I'm Lisa Rotundi's iPhone. I'll ask you to unmute. Maybe you already spoke. Oh, okay.
Hi. Hold on 1 second. How are you?
Good.
I would just like to say that the police I'm in Cross River, by the way, and the police in our town have been extraordinarily helpful and supportive. I do have a question for the last speaker. I'm just wondering, like, what kind of resource she would think would be helpful to our town, besides the police the police force in a situation where a violent occurrence is happening in her home. Like, what would be helpful for her? And I would just like to say that the other day I went to the police station to have my car seat checked out to make sure that it was installed properly. It wasn't, and Officer Holtz walked me through exactly how it should properly be installed. She took training so that she's knowledgeable about it. She walked me through every step, showed me how it should go properly so I can be ensured that my son is safe when in the car. And I think it's such a small thing, but that we have officers readily available to come out and help you in your car to see, that your family will be safe. It's so small, but it's huge. And I think that, of course there's bad police in the world, but I feel confident that there's not one bad police officer on our Lewisboro police force. And I think that's something as a town that we should be really proud of. And of course, there's problems in the world and in the country and in our state. Of course, Black Lives Matter, but police have such a hard job and we need to respect them and appreciate all that they do for us. And that's it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next we have Rob Gorman. I'm asking you to unmute and to turn your video on, please.
Hello.
Hi. I'm asking you to turn your video on as well if you want.
Yep, sorry, I'm trying to do that. It says it's on. Can you see me?
We cannot, but we can hear you.
Okay. Well, my name is Rob Gorman. I'm living in Vista right now. First off, I just want to say how much I appreciate what all the Lewisboro Police Department does and how professional and courteous and respectful they are throughout the community. I want to state that I was a police officer in the Bronx for 20 years, and I understand that there are bad apples in any large groups. And generalizations can be made about cops just as they can be made about lawyers, doctors, or a particular race or ethnic groups. Generalizations are not good and they are ruining our country. I think many in our community underestimate what the job of being a cop is like. Nobody sits around hoping to go out and draw their gun. In fact, every day that you put on that uniform and walk out of the precinct is extremely stressful. wondering what interaction you'll have, hoping for the good ones that happen often, but fearing for the bad ones where you are confronted with either physical or threatened with a knife or a gun. Worried if you will come home to your family, which is the number one thing for a police officer to do once they walk out those doors of the precinct. I became a police officer to help people, to help the community, not to hurt anyone regardless of their race, gender, sexual orientation, or anything else. The calls to defund the police are sad to me. If anything, we need more funding, more training, more education. What really saddens me is seeing members of our community calling all police racist or being flippant with the term ACAB, which I'm sure some of you might know what that means or don't know what that means. Cops save lives. In fact, I know of a community member who lives in Katona, where they had their support Bedford police sign stolen by 2 local teenagers. She wasn't mad at the kids. She just knows that they were trying to be misguided or mischief. Her sign wasn't put up as a political sign. It was to thank the police who saved her life. 6 years ago, she had a heart attack, and the 2 Bedford police officers who were first on the scene performed life-saving CPR before the EMTs got there. I believe we should invest in training, education, and our police officers need so they can continue saving lives and making a difference in our communities, especially the town of Lewisboro. I'm assuming that ring means I'm done. I can't see you, so I apologize.
Yes, it is, and I apologize.
Thank you very
2 minutes
much.
is up. Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
Next, I'm asking Simone Petromelis to unmute and to turn on video.
Hello? Hi.
Hi, we can hear you.
Okay. I've been a criminal defense attorney for over 30 years and have worked with many police officers in that time, and we have some of the best here. I took the opportunity to look into police reform as it pertains to Lewisboro, and my conclusion is we need more money for more police. Our chief and officers are fabulous, but they can't do this job alone. We have, I believe, 3 full-time police officers for a town of over 10,000, and I think only 1 works at night. I live in Vista, and I've called at night, and it took almost an hour for a state trooper to show up. We're on our own here in Vista. Crime is on the rise. We've recently had many car break-ins. Police also respond to many other calls. I think we should find a way to cut back in other areas and or increase the budget for the police. Even 2 extra officers would help. People come here for many reasons. One is safety. This is something we should all be able to agree on. Let's help our police help serve and protect us safely. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Simone. Next, I'm asking Zen to unmute and start your video if you'd like, Zen.
It won't start. It says it
Just-
asked you to start. There we go. Hi, good evening. Hello to everyone. I've been a business owner in South Salem for 26 years. And while I would fully admit there does seem to be a problem in the country where racism is causing problems, I struggle to find solutions that would cure that. Even more, though, I would struggle to find evidence that it exists in Lewisboro. I've seen 4 different chiefs go through the department, getting better and better and better, just improving the department as it goes. As I said, that would cause me to struggle to think how we could better the police department. And the only thing I can come up with is more funding to the police department and giving them the support that they need. To think that cutting a budget would help, I don't really see the logic in that. But as I said, more so, I struggle to find where this is applicable for our particular police department. Because as I said, I've been in town for, well, all my life, but 26 years as a business owner. I've been pulled over by the police, and I've also called the police for help. Not once have I ever gone away from any of the Lewisboro police officers finding them to be anything but professional and even helpful. And that's even when you've received a ticket. I've found them to be professional, courteous, and helpful about that. So again, when I reflect back on this, I really cannot think of any way in which defunding the Lewisboro Police would help. They've done nothing but get better and better. And even with 30 seconds left, I'll leave it at that because that's really about it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Zen.
You're welcome.
Next, I have another iPhone that I'm asking to unmute.
Oh,
If you could state your name.
Joe Farah, 46 Church Tavern Road. How's everybody doing? So, look, you know, I've spoken one of the other calls. I'm from the Bronx. Had a business in the South Bronx. I've seen everything, and I gotta tell you, I don't even understand what this phone call is about. Personally, I think it's ridiculous. First of all, we have to support our police officers. We don't have these issues in our towns. I don't know why we're allowing outside things to affect us in our town. I moved to this town. It took me a year to come here, and I found the town because I feel safe here. My kids are safe. I have had nothing but a pleasure to deal with the police officers in this town, and everybody wants to make their political statements. But here's the bottom line: we have a beautiful town. It's safe. The police officers have always been courteous and beyond fair. I've seen bad stuff in my life, and I hear people talking on this call like it's just experiences that some of you never been through. I gotta be honest with you, I'm contemplating moving because I didn't move here for this. You know, maybe in another 2 years, my kids graduate in high school next year, and then my two younger ones will leave the town. I made a large investment to come up here. I'm an upright citizen, and we need to support the police and fund them. I don't even know what the conversation is about the funding. This is a political talking point that has no business in our town. So I got it. So, you know, I just want to tell, you know, the police force, the town police, thank you for what you do. I appreciate everything you want to do. And I'm Spanish just in case people start getting the wrong idea. And I've dealt with some stuff that was done to me. But once again, like I said in the last call, I don't use that as an excuse. I'm my own man, and so is my wife. We're two Latinos came to this town to have a better life. So thank you for what you do.
All right, thank you so much. Now I'm asking Skaz to unmute and to turn on your video if you desire. Skaz, I'm asking you to unmute. We will come back to Skaz. Elio Machetta, I'm asking you to unmute and to start.
Hang on.
Video.
Can you hear me, Janet?
Yes, we can.
Hi, Elio Machetta, South Salem, New York. And I just want to say, we all know that we have a great police department, but we all know that it could be better. For these reasons, we need 24-hour coverage. There's no continuity at the 11 p.m. shift change when we turn over to state police. Important information that needs to be relayed doesn't get passed on when state police takes over. The state police allocates one car for the 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. shift to cover Pound Ridge, North Salem, Somers, Lewisboro, and 684. And it's not a guarantee every night for the 11 to 7 shift that we're going to have a car from state police. The other thing is, we should really have a minimum of 2 officers on duty every shift for their own safety. Who do our guys call if they get into a jam? It's a long wait. Also, we would also benefit from faster response times throughout the town, excuse me. And lastly, which no one's bringing up, why aren't we funding for police officer body cams? That's a must for everything that's going on in today's climate with all the accusations that are made against police. It's a thing we should have. That could be an insurance policy to make sure everything is on the up and up. We know our guys are good. We just want to be positive. For my last 30 seconds, I want to say, Janet Donahue, you're the bomb.
Oh, thank you, Elio. I appreciate that. Okay. Next, I see Skaz there. Skaz, I'm going to ask you to unmute.
Hello?
There you go.
Hi, guys. Hi, everyone. Ladies, gentlemen, board, Chief Alfano, Sergeant Malone. I just want to tell everyone that I, for one, believe a lot of this is nonsense. I don't think we should have national politics running agenda in Lewisboro. I was born and raised here. I'm also a business owner in this area, and all I can say is nothing but fantastic things from our men and women in uniform. First responders, police officers, I think you guys are doing a wonderful job. Sure, like Elio said and a bunch of others said, there are bad apples in everything and everyone. Things happen. For everyone here to all of a sudden say that our police force, our local town, has to make these drastic changes to meet the requirements for less than maybe 1/10 of the population that's, and I'm a minority included. I'm an Albanian Muslim, and after 9/11, there was never a situation in my life that I can remember being called a terrorist or being discriminated upon just because I am Muslim. I do think we should have more police officers in our town. We have over 12,000 people in this population. They cover 30 square miles. One officer for one shift has to cover 30 square miles. I think that's ludicrous. I think we should have an afternoon evening police force, 1 or 2 people on the job. I really think this town should more focus on what's going on locally instead of bringing national politics to a huge agenda. I was born and raised here. I have plenty of friends that go here. Some of the board members here, I went to school with your kids. Everyone knows this is one of the greatest towns to live in. Our crime rate has been the lowest in the country. And people are going to say that this police force or our officers are having issues or problems. I really do think we should readjust our focus on what's going on and put the people here first before a national agenda. And that's my 30 seconds.
All right. Thank you, Skaz. Next, I'm going to ask Robin Leganzowski to unmute. And
Hi.
And if you want to start your video, you can too.
Oh, no. Okay, so for the last 3 years, we were the safest town in America and on a shoestring budget. So I understand that this is a mandate by Cuomo, but let's differentiate here. We have a chief who went to John Jay. We know everybody. Community where everybody knows everyone and can help each other. And I mean, Mr. Parsons, when you were on the Westchester County video with Latimer, you felt perfectly comfortable announcing to the world that we have 1 police officer on duty at a time, and it takes 20 minutes if you're in Vista to get over to Golden's Bridge. Are we trying to create a self-fulfilling prophecy here? Are we trying to create a problem where we're not in our 4th year of the safest town in America? I'm not exactly sure. And that was June 24th. So it wasn't really a safe time to be saying those kinds of things. It's also been in the paper previously. Also, I would like to say that I don't think people realize that our police are trained in many things besides holding a gun. They administer lots of life-saving techniques to a lot of people, and apparently there's a lot of people on drugs in our town, as we found out the hard way. So I don't know what a social worker is going to do, if that's the plan, with someone who's passed out on drugs. That's when you call an EMT. So I would like to increase our police force. I've never felt safe in this town because
I live in Vista, which is 20 minutes, according to Mr. Parsons, to get to if our police car is in Golden's Bridge. And in addition to that, we should have somebody on each side of town, not trying to race over, no matter if there's crime or not, but we should have patrol. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Robin. Next, I'm asking Jim O'Connor to unmute and to show video if you so desire. Can you hear us, Jim?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, I just have a recommendation. First of all, I want to say Elio did a phenomenal job summarizing everything that should be done in the town in regards to the police department. I have the utmost respect for our men in blue. But my recommendation for the town board and the new committee would to take the simulated firearm scenario. It's a shoot, don't shoot. It's an eye-opening experience. I think it would be something that they really would come away with a new perspective. And in regards to people saying there's bad apples and everything, yeah, there are bad apples. Just like we have bad committee members and bad town board members, I agree. But in this town, we don't have a bad cop at all. And in regards to the Black Lives Matter, I think people should start doing their homework and research. It is a neo-Marxist terrorist organization. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jim. Next, I have an iPhone that I'm asking to unmute.
And you can camera too.
We can hear you, and then I'll ask you for your video as well, if you'd like.
Okay.
Hello, my name's Paul Rotundi, and I've lived here most of my life, and I've had a lot of experience with the police. And I just want to point out that the police aren't only here to stop crime, because crime in Lewisboro doesn't seem to be a big problem, except for maybe drugs and so forth. But I remember a situation where Officer Tom Ritchie, a couple of years ago, was driving down the road and he seen a guy having a heart attack. The guy was, I guess, killed over, having a heart attack. And Mr. Ritchie was trained on how to handle a situation like this and save the man's life. So I asked, if this was your family member, how much money is that worth to have somebody that's a medical expert and knows what to do in an emergency situation, and to cut it down when something like that happens? Every minute counts. So you have to think that, hey, if somebody in my family's having a medical emergency or whatever the case may be, do you want somebody there that's a professional, or do you want to just, hope for the best and hope they'll be okay 45 minutes later? And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Good job, Paul.
Next, I'm asking John Luke to unmute and to start your video if you'd like.
Hello?
Hi, we can hear you.
Hi, my name is Janet, and I'm in the Truesdale Lake area. And I feel like we definitely need more police presence. Our area was hit very hard with theft and our neighborhood being vandalized. And thank God for Lewisboro Police doing what they were able to do with such a small amount of officers. So many officers are going through so much right now, and it's very unfortunate. And now more than ever, we need to support our officers and add more funding for them. I don't understand why this is even going on. We definitely need more officers, and I think we need to overlook at what's being spent on the wrong reasons and fund our police officers. That's all.
Okay, thank you, Janet. Next I'm asking Gigi to unmute. Gigi, and if you want to start your video.
Okay, let me start. Hi, I'm Gigi and I am have a business in the community. I've been in business for a few years and I've had the pleasure of meeting Dave Alfano. I'm also a mother of an autistic child, a child with special needs, and something that I've always said is I will never call a police officer because in fear of my child getting hurt. I don't feel that way about the Lewisboro police. I used to live in Queens and I felt that way in Queens. I do feel that police, instead of defunding them, need better training and need the funds for training, and in Lewisboro need funds for more officers. To me, that's more important right now than defunding them. We need to stand by the police officers that we currently have, and we need to make sure that they're properly trained. Nationwide, yes, there is a problem, but I agree with a few other members who spoke about bringing the problems nationwide to our door when it really does not belong here, because that problem does not exist within this community. And nationwide, they do need proper training for police officers, especially responding to deal with special need people. I find that they wind up getting hurt or killed. So instead of defunding our police department, let us try to fund the police department and let us try to train them in all areas, because police get called for just about every situation, every problem. We lean on the police officers to help us. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak. Good night.
Thank you, Gigi. Next, I'm asking Beth Retsky to unmute and to share video if you like.
Yeah. Can you hear me, Janet?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. First of all, good evening, Supervisor Parsons, Chief Alfano, the rest of the Lewisboro Police Department, the rest of the committee. I am eternally grateful for all of your help. Janet, they were right. Kudos to you. You rock. You're unbelievable. You keep everybody together. That all being said, other than what I want to say is this part. First of all, other than the statement mandate by Governor Cuomo, I'm not sure why we're even on this phone call tonight.
So Beth, we're having, I hate to interrupt, but we're having a hard time hearing you.
Department has been nothing but professional, upstanding, helpful, and the list can go on and on. If anyone has had a person, can you hear me now?
No, so you know what, I'm gonna mute you, Beth, and bring you back up. Maybe move to a different room. Okay, I'll mute you now and then we'll.
Hear me now?
Beth, if you can't get through to us now, feel very free to send me an email saying what you're trying to say at the moment.
Okay, so I will come back to Beth. Right now, Serna, I'm asking you to unmute and to video. Start your video. Okay, I'll mute. Serna, can you hear us? I'll come back to Serna as well. Next, Nina Andrews, I'll ask you to unmute and to start your video, if you'd like. Nina?
Trying. Can you hear me? Oh, hi guys.
There we are.
We can hear you and see you.
First, I just want to say, I love Lewisboro. I go on vacation and I can't wait to come home because I just think it's like the best place in the whole entire world. You know, I think that all of us as Lewisboro citizens are like beyond lucky to have these officers protecting our town. I mean, they're just upstanding individuals. All have had the best experiences with each and every one of them, you know? I think Simone said it best, more money, more police. Give them whatever they need. Fund the police, fund them for whatever they need. Within the last few years, I mean, we've had a few phone calls with the LPD and, visits, sorry. And each time they've been helpful, respectful. I mean, even being pulled over, I feel like a few people have said this, even then they're respectful, willing to help you, teach a lesson from that situation. I mean, they're part of our community. They're part of the Lewisboro family that we all are, which again, we're lucky to have because so many towns don't have that. I mean, it's just not a situation. There are definitely troubles with police officers and we don't have that here. I mean, we're lucky that when we have called the police, it's been within the hours of 7 and 11. Sorry, oh God, can I say all of the things? It's good that it's been within the hours of 7 a.m. and 11 p.m. because we have been able to have someone. If it was after that time, we live in Vista. We're all the way half an hour away from the highway. If someone were, you know, bleeding out, how are we gonna get a police officer here in time to help us? I just additionally don't even think the majority of us know how much it takes to be a police officer. You know, what comes with, you have to be a social worker, therapist, someone who can de-escalate an insane situation. They're the first EMS responder on the scene. It's just, give them more. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Nina. I'm going to come back to Beth now. I'm going to ask you to unmute and start your video again, Beth Uretsky. Okay.
Jen, is this any better?
Not really. No. Can you try to move to a different room? Okay.
Is that any better?
Try talking.
Is that any better?
Yes. Hold on. Tony's.
Yeah, I was going to suggest maybe she should turn off her video, but it's probably taking up her internet bandwidth.
Okay, I'll do
Just
that.
the audio. Yeah.
Not video. Okay, so now try just speaking, Beth.
Tony, is that better?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you, Janet. So as I was trying to say, and I apologize for the interruption, and someone give me a high sign, I'm sorry if that happens again. Lewisboro Police Department has been nothing, like I said, other than professional. They've been demonstrative in helping everyone in this town. It's been, they're unbelievable. They need our support. They need additional funding. But what I don't hear tonight is that Lewisboro Police Department needs to be asked, what does LPD need? What do they need? Do they need more support? Do they need more funding? Do they need more police officers? Do they need more training? I'm not sure any of us are qualified to really answer those questions, except for Chief Alfano and his wonderful staff. So I'm asking Lewisboro Board to please have a meeting with Chief Alfano and his team and find out really what they feel we need in this town. I'm sure we need additional funding. I'm sure we need additional staff. But to what capacity and what those logistics look like, that's not for us to say. That's for Chief Alfano and his crew to say. They're the ones out there every single day supporting our town. They're the ones protecting us. They're the ones in our schools protecting our children. As a parent, we moved up here for the schools and for the safety. And we need to get behind our chief and our department and do nothing but help support them. Thank you, Janet.
Okay, thank you, Beth.
Janet, I'm done, thank you.
Okay, now.
Okay, shall we move on?
No, I've got a few more. Right now I'm asking Serna. Did we do Serna? To unmute. Serna? Serna? Okay, I'm going to mute Serna. Next, I have it appears a telephone, 914. It ends in 5047. I'm asking you to unmute. Cell phone 5047. I'm asking you to unmute.
Hi, that's me. 4450.
Okay, we can hear you. Yep.
Hi, my name is Dean Morazzo. I live in Cross River, and my family and I moved up here about close to 16 years ago, and we've had a few instances over the years to deal with the police department, and I was taken back at how personal they took it, and to the point where several of the police officers, a couple of the chiefs, have actually given me their personal numbers to say, hey, look, if it's after hours or if you're in trouble or anything, God forbid, your wife's home alone, give us a call. You don't realize how far that goes. And the resentment that's building in this town is when you try to bring politics that are negatively affecting a few cities, a few pockets around the country, and apply it to a town where it has no business. To put a price on my family's safety is a travesty. And any politician or any board member that supports that will never get my vote, and I'll do my best to see that they get no one's vote, because that's ridiculous. Safety is priority. We have a safe town. We can't get complacent. We need to fund our police department and stay ahead of crime instead of waiting for crime to come to us. The chiefs, Frank Secret, Dave Alfano, they've been stellar. They know everyone in this town. They respect all of our community members. They just have all of our best interests at heart, and they need our support, and they have mine. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Next, Dr. Biswas, I'm asking you to unmute.
Hello, hold on. I'm going to turn on my video. All right, good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Biswas. I'm one of the assistant principals at John Jay High School, and I'm here to represent Principal Siciliano, who couldn't be here because of a family emergency. I know he's supposed to be sitting on the board today. So on the topic of interactions with the department, I just feel like I'll be repeating what a lot of others here have been saying already, Lewisboro is a great community, and the LPD are a large part of what helps make it such a positive community. Chief Alfano, Officer Llewellyn, SRO Secret, the whole police department are regular and welcome presence at the high school. They attend a lot of the high school events, and they come to events around the entire school district. They are very professional in all their dealings with students, in their dealings with parents, and in dealings with the community. I just want to make sure that was acknowledged from the high school standpoint. And unfortunately, it's bedtime for my kids, so I have to get off the call soon. So I wanted to comment on the SRO position that Mr. Parsons had mentioned for a topic later on. I've been with the district for 4 years now, and I've had the pleasure of working with Frank Secret, the SRO at the high school, for the past 4 years. And it really is a pleasure. He's always ready to assist us, whether it's an emergency drill like we had today, whether it's dealing with campus parking issues, whether it's making home and wellness visits, whether it's assisting in school investigations, and even being part of a very active part of our schools and the district's crisis teams. Frank, he is a key member of our school community. He takes real pride in having graduated from John Jay. He has very close ties to the students. He has very close ties to the entire community. And I just wanted to make sure and reiterate that he really helps in creating a really positive and safe environment for the students and for the whole community. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Biswas. Next, I'm asking the Copia family to unmute.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jen Cipriano from Copia, and we're here in Vista, a very close ride, short ride to I-95 and the Merritt Parkway. And from a business and resident perspective, we appreciate everything that our LPD has done to keep us safe. However, being this close, a straight run to those highways, it makes us very vulnerable. And we appreciate any protection that they can give us in terms of crime, but I think they need extra support. And the last thing we want to do is defund them. I think we need to support them in their efforts as a business and as a new family to this area. 10 years ago, we were very much attracted to the safety of this area, and I think we need to keep that up. And you know, it's proven that we are very vulnerable being close to those highways. The New Canaan Police Department, I know, has upped their surveillance of this area. We're right over the New Canaan border, and they've upped their surveillance because of how close it is to those highways and how criminals can get to a highway very quickly. And I also want to just applaud the police department for all their efforts with the schools and keeping connected with our young residents, and you know, just speaking to them about drugs and keeping them safe. And we've had several criminal incidents that we've witnessed since we moved here 10 years ago, and the LPD has been nothing but professional in every incident. So I applaud them and we support them. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Next, I'm asking Rebecca to unmute.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, I'm Rebecca. I'm in South Salem, in Church Tarrant. I just want to start off saying thank you to the police department, because you work hard, and it's unfair that you get put into the same category as the other bad apples. And I don't agree with defunding. I agree with everyone else speaking, we need more police presence. I grew up in the Bronx. I didn't grow up in the safest place. And I know that going from school to home and staying inside my home wasn't the life that I wanted to give my children. That's why I moved here, so they can be free and they wouldn't have to fear for their safety. My kids look up to police officers, to firemen, to first responders. When they go to football games and they see the police officers, their eyes light up. And that's the message we should be giving our children. Not that police officers are the enemies or that they're bad and they need to be feared. If I'm not around, I want my child to be comfortable enough to say, I need to find a police officer and he can help me. The world is crazy. It's burning all around us. It's just not getting any better. Why would we want or invite our town to be exposed for people, outsiders, to come and raid our properties and make our kids unsafe? Not so long ago, we were nervous to send our kids to school because of the craziness of people infiltrating the school and hurting kids. I mean, we need more presence and we need to support them because it's not an easy job. It's not. And I just want to say thank you to them and their families. I'm done.
Okay. Thank you, Rebecca. Next. Next, I'm asking Sam Zaffro to unmute.
Hi, thank you. Sam Zafiro. I live in South Salem. I want to say thank you to the police department and actually speak in hopes that we can extend the scope of their service with increased training and additional resources, specifically in an area that I don't think anyone has addressed yet, which is human trafficking and child exploitation. I'm going to try to talk quickly, but the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services estimates that about 300,000 children are at risk for sexual exploitation each year. This number recently skyrocketed due to COVID lockdowns, which resulted in unprecedented time spent online for both perpetrators and potential victims. According to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, in March of this year alone, there was more than 2 million reports of internet crimes against children, more than double similar reports from the same period last year. In April, there was 4.1 million reports of internet crimes against children, a fourfold increase from April 2019. Law enforcement and leaders of private agencies agree that human trafficking and child exploitation, most notably online, occurs in every single community across the United States and is especially difficult to uncover in quiet, affluent towns like our own. The Lewisboro PD does not receive any ongoing training nor funding of any kind right now to identify perpetrators or victims of trafficking, to recover victims, to assist other police departments. Our town budget for 2020 was $12 million. Lewisboro Police Department receives $1 million of that budget. In contrast, for the 2021 school district budget is $111 million. So we're spending $100 million more on education than policing. There is literally no educational outcome more important than the safety and security of our children. And I would argue that positive educational outcomes are actually impossible to achieve without that safety. All children are at risk of being exploited in the US, but children of color and those who identify as LGBTQ are at greatest risk. For those who call themselves advocates of justice and equality before the law, know that defunding the police empowers human traffickers and enables child exploitation. So I hope the committee takes the need for additional funding seriously, and I'd love to be a part of future conversations to talk about how we can support our police in fighting these crimes. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Sam. Next, I'm asking Sophie Phillips to unmute, please.
I can't put my video on. It says the host blocked it. There it goes. Okay. Hi. So I'm going to talk about a couple incidents that might be minority from what I'm hearing about LGBT. So this is coming from Sebastian Singh. He can't be here tonight, so he asked me to share this. He's had the police called on him multiple times by his neighbors, and his neighbors have not once come over to talk to him or his family. They've been here for 28 years and have had this for years happening because he has bonfires. And we have bonfires where I live too in Golden's Bridge all the time, and we've never gotten the police called on us. If a neighbor has a problem, they talk to us. It's probably because Sebastian is a person of color and his family are people of color, and he feels extremely intimidated when the police do come and they show their guns to him and they don't talk to him in the nicest of ways. Another instance that happened often, one of my friends' neighbors are people of color as well, and they get pulled over by LPD multiple times when they're driving their convertible and are asked if they're stealing the convertible in our town. Like, I know it might be the minority, but it is happening, and I think it's important to recognize that. They also don't feel comfortable calling the police anymore in our town because every time they do, the police don't listen, so they have their neighbors call instead. And when their neighbors call, they do show up. They're white. So I think there is some instances that are worth mentioning. I know they might be the minority again, but it is important to recognize that. I think also when we're talking about the education that we received in schools from the police, I think a lot of it wasn't very helpful, especially talking about drugs and alcohol. We went into college with a very skewed view of drugs and alcohol, and I think it made situations a lot worse. So I think when we are talking to high school children, middle school children about that kind of stuff, I think maybe a curriculum change needs to happen. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sophie. Next, I'm asking Nick Giordina to unmute. And start your video if you'd like.
Am I good?
There you go. Yeah, you're good.
First, I want to start off by thanking the Lewisboro Police Department, all of our first responders of our town. I know there's a very magical word being passed around the country about reimagining the police department. There's also been a word that's been used forever, and that's community policing. And here in our town, the Lewisboro Police Department is not just the police, they are our community. They've come through here. They've gone to our high school. They're at every event. They know the kids. They grow up with the kids. The kids who live here now are adults with the police officers that they know. It's not all about guns. It's not all about what you're reading in the papers or seeing on the TV. The Lewisboro Police Department and our community work together to try to steer away from what you're seeing in the national news. We take care of our neighbors. We put our neighbors first, and so does the police department. Having Officer Secret at the school with my children, a school that I graduated from, puts me at such ease, and I talk to them and I told them about, you listen to Officer Secret if there's a problem. He knows everything about this community. He would put his life in line for any one of us because he was rooted in this community, just like Chief Alfano, just like all of our police officers, to bring national politics to our town, because creating a committee to look into our police department, then I say we need a committee to look into the corrupt government, which could be our town board. What's to say that our town board's not corrupt? What's to say our town board's not having problems? Where's the committee to look into them? To go after our police department is terrible. And what one of the speakers earlier, Sam, said, phenomenal statistics, great ideas about helping the police department. And yes, I believe we need to expand and give the police department more funding. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Next, I'm asking Dan DePonto to unmute.
Can you hear me?
I can, and if you want you to start your video, you can do that as well.
Okay. So I had a few points, but they seem to be touched on earlier by a lot of people. You know, there's a term that's been thrown around lately, common sense approach. And, you know, I just feel that it's not reasonable to make calls to defund the police. I mean, we only have a couple of full-time officers right now. We have a full 8-hour shift that's not covered by our local police department. I mean, in Westchester, there's about I may be off by a few. I think 42 local police departments. Every town, village in the county, you know, enjoys their services of their local PD. You know, crime does happen between the hours of 11 p and 7 a. You know, the average citizen doesn't realize, you know, some of the crime that happens around town. You know, larcenies, car break-ins, auto theft, you know, service calls for overdoses and drug activity. I live in Vista. I had a neighbor a few years ago that had a suspicious person lurking around their home at like 2 a.m., had to call state police. And the response time for the state police was 45 minutes. So, you know, it obviously the suspicious person was not found. They, you know, could have been in Bridgeport by the time the state police arrived. So I just find it, you know, unreasonable that we have calls to defund the police. We should be, you know, adding officers, especially to cover the 11 to 7 shift. And if we're defunding the police that are on a shoestring budget as it is, where do you think those cuts are going to come from? They're going to come from SRO programs, training, all things that we want to add to benefit the citizen safety here. And I find it shameful that the town board may even entertain this, because the number one responsibility for government is to keep the citizens safe. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dan. Next, I'm inviting Carol Cernak to unmute.
Hi,
Also, if
this
you want to
is
start your
Carol Cernak.
video.
Yeah, no, I'm not starting my video. This is Carol Cernak at Farview Farm in South Salem. I'd just like to say that we support the police and not defunding them. It doesn't make any sense. This is not, you know, Barney Fife Town anymore, or Mayberry. Like everybody has said before, we're close proximity to I-95. All the break-ins from the people from Bridgeport, Waterbury, Hartford. It's unreasonable to think that we don't need to fund the police. You know, it's a funny thing that you don't think about the police until you need them. So, you know, if you have an emergency, and don't complain. If you're willing to defund them, don't complain about them not being here. And excuse my hoarse voice, because the timber grinding has been going on several days now at the Salt Dome property, and with the dry air, it's affected my allergies and my voice. Too bad the police department doesn't get a portion of what that operation is making there, and it would take care of all nobody's increase in taxes, fund the police, training, maintenance on vehicles, and everything else. So that's my thought, and thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Next, I'm inviting Fabio to unmute.
Yes, hello. Yeah, my name is Fabio. I moved here 6 years ago, and I think that we should support the police and increment their head count, because we have some changes in our community since a lot of people moved from the city, and we should show that we have a strong community and police department. They've been great. And I also think that some other neighbors have noticed that we don't have that coverage. And I lost twice my mailbox. So does my neighbor. They just stole it. They took it out from the ground. I know there could be kids, but also in the park town, we have some vandalism in cars. And that's probably because they know we don't have enough police coverage. So I feel strong into supporting the police and to giving more funding for training, for headcount, like I said. And we probably will avoid in the future to encounter risk situations and more safety for our people. I feel very safe in my house. I have a Marine in my house, but I don't know about other people that probably are scared of things to happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Fabio. Next, I'm inviting Joey Jason to unmute.
Can you hear me?
We can.
All right. Hi, my name's Joey Jason, JJ, as other people know me as. I've worked at a local company here in Cross River for over a decade now, and we work very closely with the police, and not just Lewisboro, but state, county, DEP, you name it, we've worked with them before. I have never once in that entire time seen any of them, especially Lewisboro, act in any form of an unprofessional or courteous manner. And that goes to everybody I've seen them, deal with, whether it be black, brown, white, it doesn't matter. They've always acted the most polite, courteous manner possible to anybody. That being said, I don't understand this call to defund police in general. I'm kind of happy we're having a discussion on what could be done, but a lot of people seem to be saying they want to basically switch them out for what seems like social workers, which I've heard from many people who've dealt with addicts, specifically heroin addicts, when they OD and they're issued Narcan, they can get extremely violent. And I don't think that's something you really want a social worker who's not trained with that kind of physical altercation be dealing with in those circumstances. They have to be restrained, a lot of EMTs have told me. Beyond that point, other people have given arguments that the town is so safe, there's zero crime is what I hear. What are we waiting for to move on with this now, though? Something to happen that was preventable by a little bit of funding? Personally, I don't like the lapse of coverage that happens from 11 to 7, as everyone's been mentioning. I firmly believe, and I have for a while, that Lewisboro should have a full 24-hour shift. That's it.
All right, Joey, thank you. Next, I'm asking Raymond Baker to unmute and start video if you'd like. Raymond? Raymond, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. My name is Raymond Baker. I'm a very active member of both the local fire department and ambulance corps. Every day I work with the Lewisboro Police Department and the state police. I work very closely with Chief Alfano, who's a great man who leads a great force of men and women, and Sergeant Llewellyn, who today alone, I worked with him both driving a fire truck and an ambulance. And he's a very helpful, and as well as all the other men and women in the Lewisboro Police Department, they're very hands-on when they are on medical emergencies, fire emergencies, or police calls. They have a great background in medical knowledge and fire knowledge, so they're a very great resource on the scene. There's no reason for them to be defunded, or they need more funding for more police at all times. They're always there when we need them, for our safety, for the citizen safety. When we go to medical emergencies, they're always there starting care already. They go in there and they're ready to go, and they're always willing to help us with whatever we need at any time. So there's always having their back is something that we fully support. And Chief Alfano runs a great force, very hands-on chief. We could pull up to a medical emergency. He's in there helping out, helping the patient, helping a citizen of this town. He doesn't sit in an office. He is very hands-on and is always there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, I'm asking Cheryl Card to unmute and show video if you'd like.
Hi. Thank you so much for taking my question, or taking my comment rather, and thank you to the whole committee that's putting all the time into this. I just wanted to say that I am so grateful that you are putting the time into this moment. Even if our town is like has no issues to discuss, to not be part of this national conversation would be horrible in my opinion. So I think it's very important that we participate as part of the United States, even though we're a small town. I also, I've lived here for 30 years in South Salem. Other than having my car broken into the first weekend I moved here, I have had no issues. And I've only had positive interactions, except one with the police department, and that was many years ago. And what I would hope that we would do in this moment, in addition to just reflecting on our history and what the needs of our various different peoples may need, is to look at the data and see what is actually needed. Do our police departments need support through public health officers, additional psychiatric training, additional social work officers in our town? Not everything is crisis oriented. We can perhaps do more preventative work. I'd like to know what are the factors that do support the safety of our town. It's not always the fact of police being on the ground that contributes to safety. So I'm really looking for kind of an empirical approach to any changes we do choose to undertake. And perhaps our town could be role model for the rest of the country. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. Next, I'm asking Joanne Ains to unmute. And if you'd like to start your video. Joanne?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, first I just wanted to thank everyone for allowing us to speak on this, and that I back all our men and women in blue. Just wanted to reiterate what everyone said in regards to providing more funding to the police. I am a Golden Bridge resident, coming up on 23 years here. I want to thank Chief Alfano for everything that you do for our community. Chief Llewellyn, who assisted my son, who's disabled, at the John Jay High School, who lost his phone about 4 years ago. He was professional. My son could have went into a rage about this loss, and he was professional. He had the training that he needed to de-escalate, give him the confidence that he needed, that he was working with it. And this took him out of class for probably 2 periods. He was on the phone with me to keep me abreast of to what's going on. So it is more beyond what the police do. There's a whole lot more. Also, I have 2 nephews who are on the force, and not in this town, but in others. And I worry for their lives every day for what they have to go through, whether they're going to come home to their families or not. In addition to that, Officer Secret has been nothing but needed and wanted, and a blessing to our community for my 3 children who've gone through the high school. There's a smiling face greeting us every day, and they have a safe person to go to. He understands what they're going through. Parents can't speak to them, but the officers can. Also, I don't want to leave out Officer Zane. He's something the town needs, children relate to. I like seeing his videos on everything that he's doing. I also have concerns about the night shift. I also have concerns about the need for body cams, not only for the community safety, but also the officers. They need backup. 1 officer on shift is just not okay. It's just not safe. We need a buddy system. They need extra help. Fund, fund, fund. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And this conversation is needed. Good evening, all.
Thank you, Joanne. Next, I have an iPhone. That's all it says. I'm asking the iPhone to unmute.
Hello?
Yes. Can you state
Hi,
your name,
Jen.
please?
Yes, this is Cheryl Munoz from South Salem.
Hi there.
I agree with so many others, so I'm going to make this very brief. I really just have 3 points. First, the town of Lewisboro PD is an example of all that is right, and they should be treated as such. Second, this, with respect to additional training and or funding issues regarding the PD, Dave Alfano is the best source to ask what is needed and to meet the needs of our town. Just listen to him. And third, focus should be on the needs of our town, not the needs of other towns and cities, etc. They just don't apply. And I, like so many others, just honestly think this is an unnecessary conversation. Our PD is not the problem. Outside influences are. And that's really all I have to say. Do not defund the RPD. They should be funded, and give Dave whatever he needs to meet the needs of our town.
Thanks, Sherry. Next, I'm asking Serna to unmute. And start video if you'd like.
How you doing? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I'm recently new to this town. I've been here for like 4 years, I think. I work in the city as a police officer for 11.5 years in the South Bronx. And now I train special units in the police department. I can tell you that a lot of the people in the city right now are not happy at all with all the defunding going on. But you just don't hear on the news. A lot of people are very afraid in their homes. They can't go out at night anymore. A lot of people are fleeing the city. If this is what you want to happen here, I mean, it's ridiculous. I moved out of the city for a better quality of life for my family. When I come here, I feel safe. I feel good that, you know, my kid's gonna get the best education he can get. As of right now, we have lots of car break-ins here going on in the town. I can't drive in Main Street or walk with my kid because cars are speeding up and down. I think the town is very lucky that the crime you're only facing right now is car break-ins. It could happen to escalate even more if you decide to start cutting down the police even more. I can also tell you that even the best agencies that work with police officers, as far as mental health and everything else, at the end of the day, they also end up calling the police because sometimes they get into situations they can't handle. So it's great that we are having this talk, but I just can't see how defunding a police department or cutting budgets is ever going to help. And thank you to the police department who has been here a couple of times to save my kids' life due to allergies. I appreciate that a lot. Okay, and thank you and have a good night.
Thank you, Serna. Next, I'm asking Joe to unmute
That's me, sweetie. Shush.
and to start your video if you'd prefer. Joe, I'm asking you to unmute.
Hi, Janet. This is Joe Mano. Can you hear me?
Yes. All
Excellent.
set.
Thank you. I've been a resident for over 20 years here in Lewisboro. First, I'd like to thank the police, the first responders. I'd especially like to thank Serna for his work as a police officer. And welcome to the community. We're glad to have you. We support the police. I think defunding doesn't make any sense right now. I really hope that the national politics are not influencing this board and their decisions. I agree with local problems need local solutions. And it sounds like addressing someone else's problems would be an issue. We should really address our own problems here locally. I personally wouldn't want to be judged by the actions of someone else just because they have the same job as me or happen to look like me. And it sounds like a lot of people are doing that to our police officers today. It's not a good plan. I am really glad to hear that the vast majority of people speaking this evening really seem to support additional funding and not defunding. That's, I think, the right way to go. I think it's very interesting in that it seems to be slightly different than other parts of the country, or what at least we read what we read in the papers or on the internet or on TV, what we hear on TV. I think criminal incidents, it seems like they've increased recently. I don't know if that's true, but again, the numbers would show that. I recently heard about the 24-hour coverage, so it's interesting. I didn't realize that until just recently, and some of these conversations have helped me understand that. I think the board should start the whole process by asking our police what they need. If they need technology, great. If they need something else, we should look for how we can help them. We want to create a community that is an environment where people support the police and even may want to become police officers in the future. If we don't support our police, who are going to be the police officers of the future? There will be none. So I'd like to start out by saying we support them, we thank them for their efforts, and we look forward to the solutions to come to our town.
Thank you, Joe. Next, I have another iPhone. I'm asking you to mute.
Hi, yes, this is Tatiana. I have lived in the town for 10 years. I live in Vista. I agree with a lot of the comments. I'm concerned about the crime increase in our town and the neighbors' towns. We need full-time police presence. We need to provide more resources to prevent crime. It's not acceptable that it will take 40 minutes to receive help after 11 o'clock. We need our kids and our community to be safe. I want to thank the police force in Lewisboro, and I think the board needs to listen to their request and again, put aside their politics that they have been doing during this whole time. That's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tatiana. Okay. Next, Joey Waxler. I'm asking you to unmute.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, and start your video if you'd like.
Sure. Hi, everyone. It seems very auspicious, although auspicious isn't the right word, pertinent that we're having this conversation today. I just want to remind everyone that Breonna Taylor's killers were acquitted yesterday, and I want to remind everyone that that's not an isolated incident. It's not unique. We have a problem with racism in this country. We have a problem with the structure of the police force in this country. Just because it doesn't show up in your individual life, it is beyond evident that these problems are pervasive and insidious, and they do show up in our communities, even if you don't personally see it. I'm not saying the LPD is the problem, but policing is. And in a town as resourced as ours, we have an opportunity to help create a different kind of civil service, a different kind of safety that is more complete. And the answer is not more funding for the police. The answer is not more force. It is clear, because we've heard from everyone, that this is an incredibly safe town and that police is not going to make it more or less safe. So I want to see some of the funding of the LPD put towards other social services. I want to see some of the budget allotted towards affordable housing, because what this town has to offer is amazing. And I want it to be more available to more kinds of people. I want to see it put towards sexual harm and domestic violence prevention programming, and towards experts in trauma-informed response teams that are not the police, because police are scary in those situations. I want to see that funding put towards substance abuse disorder education and intervention programming, again, with expert response teams that are not the police. And I want to see it put towards anti-racist education and anti-racist resources. Our community needs more support to maintain our safety, but policing is not the answer. There are other better answers. Thank you.
Thank you, Joey. Next, I'm asking Trevor McGinn to unmute and start video if you prefer.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. Man, I picked an interesting time to go because I can just echo a lot of what Joy just said. I think that the LPD does an amazing job already. As we've heard so many times tonight, we have an incredibly safe town. And I think that that sort of is at odds with what I'm hearing from a lot of other voices who have said the same things, that they also feel in fear in this town. I think we do have a very safe town, and I think the LPD does an incredible job. Chief Alfano does a great job. Sergeant Llewellyn does a great job. But it seems as though they're also being pulled in a million different directions and having to fulfill obligations and roles that they really shouldn't be having to. I think that's where a lot of the conversations surrounding the integration of social workers into our town's response, as well as professionalized EMT services. Our police should not always have to be the first responder for any health incidents that takes place. We heard earlier a scenario about a man who was very fortunate to be passed by an officer on the road. Not everyone is out on the road being passed at just the right moment. Plenty of people in this town have heart attacks in their home and need EMT services. And our LVAC team does an amazing job, but at the same time, without professionalized EMTs, our soul dedicated police officer is being pulled to a home for a medical emergency when they could be taking care of some of the many other responsibilities that they face. This is not a conversation about defunding the police necessarily. This is a conversation about reimagining the ways in which we can make the police's job easier so they can focus on the jobs they are more specifically trained to accomplish, and allow for others to fill the roles of the EMT, of the social worker, who could be a co-responder perhaps in domestic abuse situations, so that you have an officer present on the scene along with a dedicated social services provider who can be the first person to offer de-escalation services or therapeutic services. The police should not be expected to be the Band-Aid that fixes every single problem in our society or our little community. That's really all I have to say. I thank everybody for participating tonight. I think this is really important work. Have a great evening.
Thank you, Trevor. Next, I'm asking the initials JAM, J-A-M, to unmute and to start video if you'd like.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. My name is Brendan McCormick. I live in South Salem. I've been here for about 22 years now. One thing that's been made increasingly clear, and something that I thought about but I didn't really know, is that for our town our size in both population and geography, we do not have sufficient police coverage. It's a large town, as our esteemed superintendent noted. It takes a long time to get from one place to the other. We need more police, and we need them round the clock. It's not fair for them to be expected to cover so much with so few resources. I just want to make sure that I added my voice to the support of them and all the good work they do. Like I said, in 22 years, I've had quite a bit of contact with the police. It's all been favorable. It's all been professional, and it's all been very respectful. So I'd like to thank them, and I think that we should keep in mind that the conversation should be about what does our police force need, and not do we need the police force. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, I'm asking Timothy Bussell to unmute and to share video if you'd like.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. My name is Timothy Bussell. I've lived in Katona for over 20 years. I am a social worker who works in East Harlem with young men who are involved in the justice system. I've worked amongst police officers, DAs, ADAs, defense attorneys, you name it. And what I can say is that there have been many situations I have personally de-escalated on those streets that police officers would have no reason to be involved with, and were in fact thankful that I was able to do. I think everyone who has questioned why we should defund the police in our town is trying to ask the right question, which is, where do we need the resources? And it's very clear that everyone has also echoed, similarly to Joey, that there are a multitude of services that we could provide that are not police officers, right? And so we really need to think about where the money is going and where it would be most effective. If you can tell me that the police officers in our town or across this country understand the breadth and depth of the trauma that they can inflict by just showing up to people's doorsteps, stopping them in traffic violations. I think let's go back to what Joey said immediately before. If I'm a social worker and I do something unethical, I'll lose my license and my livelihood for the rest of my life when it comes to that profession. Police officers can kill and murder people indiscriminately, and there is no sentence for that, like we just saw. So we really need to think about, outside of our Westchester bubble, have we actually evaluated what is happening? I delivered pizza in Katona for a year. I didn't know that there were many Black families and families of color that lived right near Bedford Hills and right near both of the prisons. If you think that you can speak for many other people in your town, in your community, I doubt that you've actually evaluated who is being harmed by the police, who can be harmed by the police, And I think everyone on this call can admit that more resources, not for police, but for appropriate services, is the right move. Thank you.
Thank you, Timothy. Next, I'm asking Daniel Godison to unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Thank you for that last social worker. I'm been a police officer for 25 years. I'm still active, and we're not delivering pizzas. We're showing up at people's houses in very serious situations, and I can't believe that the Lewisboro Police Department only has one person on the road. When I'm going to domestics, suicides, overdoses, violence in homes, if I don't know that I have backup coming, that is scary. That is unbelievable. And I've been worked in cities and towns, and I can't comprehend it, to be honest with you. And I feel bad for the police officers that are showing up at these homes trying to do the best job that they can alone. And I know all the police officers in town, and I just hope for the best for them. It's just hard for me to understand that they're by themselves. I've been called in the middle of the night from neighbors to come help them out, because the state police, they're great. The state police are wonderful. But again, they're far away in the middle of the night, and sometimes they're not so close. I also volunteer in this town. I do as much as possible. And also to say police are scary, whatever, everybody's got their opinions, but I've been so involved with people, and I always do my best. I know the officers in town do their best. And just to wrap everything up, I think change starts at home. Change starts with the parents, okay? And building a good rapport with your children. The initial responsibility of the police department. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Daniel. Next, I'm asking Ross to unmute. Ross?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
So I live in South Salem on the border of Pound Ridge. Been here for about 5 years. I'm also a federal law enforcement officer in New York City. I think it's asinine that some of the town board members feel that the rhetoric to be able to put forward that some of the
I think we lost you, Ross. Next, Ross, if you want to speak again, put your hand up and I'll get to you. We have two more right now. I'm asking Glenda Faber to unmute.
Neighbors, I hope you can hear me.
We can hear you.
Okay. Everybody, I think everybody has good things to say. It seems that the people that are pro-police actually are talking about our town. The people that have bad instances are talking about the country. This committee, I assume, is for the town. And as far as adding police, adding social workers and everything else, it sounds a little naive because I don't know what the finances of Lewisboro are. I've been to many budget meetings and there is no money in this town. So to wish all this stuff is great. Find the money, double the town tax, and you still won't have enough to provide what everybody wants. So we have to decide on what we need and not what we want, as I always tell my children. That's all I have to say. Good evening.
Thank you, Glenn. Next, I'm asking Liz Katz-Gonzalez to unmute, please. Liz? Liz, I'm asking you to unmute. Liz Katz. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Sorry, I was waiting for it to be. Hi. First and foremost, I want to thank the board, police department, and the committee for allowing the community to be heard. Our police department, I repeat, our police department. We all live here. They are here for us. We have lived here for 19 years. A few things, their presence in our schools and at the school events has been so wonderful. The kids have relationships with the officers and have the utmost respect for them. We want our kids to have a relationship with them and feel comfortable in a crisis. While officers in this country are putting in for early retirement, our department is asking what they can do. That in itself says a lot. Recently and unfortunately, we had to call 911 for a medical emergency. It felt like forever for someone to come here. When I asked the officer that came here where the Lewisboro Police Department was, they said, oh, we take over at 11 o'clock. It was a little bit after 11. The EMT, Westchester EMS, were all wonderful, but I have to tell you, it really would have felt a lot better if someone familiar was here. I would have made us feel more at ease with my children as well. Other times in the 20 years that we have lived here and have had to call, they have been wonderful and we have been incredibly grateful. If they need body cams, please provide them for them. I cannot imagine going to a call and they have no idea what they are necessarily going into. But guess what? They do it anyway because they take their job seriously, and I believe they want what's best for our community. They are residents here as well, and they are here to protect and serve us, and I think they've done a wonderful job. So thank you.
Thank you, Liz. I'm asking Jeremy Zittimer to unmute and to start video if you'd like.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, I'm Jeremy Zittimer. I'm in Goldensbridge. I've lived here a total of 20 years. So this is a little bit of a vulnerable thing, but I would encourage everyone to continue naming what it is you may be afraid of from this committee's work so that the committee can keep those things in mind going forward. For me, I see Lewisboro as a town with a really compassionate, professional chief, no official misconduct complaints in 30 years, and a lot of domestic and drug abuse cases on our hands, especially since the start of COVID. So in the context of reinventing the police in our town, for me, my fear is three things. One, I'm listening with compassion to everyone on this call. And I'm also listening with compassion and concern to stories like Sebastian Singh's and Sophie Phillips's Friends of Color that seem to go unreported and that don't seem to stem from a lack of funding. And I'm left wondering what this committee and our police department will do about that. Those are troubling, and it sounds like those are happening here. It's very important right now to pay attention to those incidents, even when they're not the majority. Two, I fear that as we continue to welcome more diversity into our hamlets, whether racially or socioeconomically, the biases that all of us carry, even after we are trained to be aware of them, will make it more challenging for our police department to ensure the safety of marginalized members of our community, unless we plan ahead now and put in place the necessary policy and thoughtful support systems to prepare for that. Three, I fear that providing for the unique needs of our town will get lost in this conversation, specifically ensuring support structures and fast responses for overdose and domestic abuse calls. If it's 2:30 in the morning and you're a parent who finds your child unresponsive on the floor, we need to make sure that the right person is able to respond fast. So we have a lot of things on our table all at once in terms of models for us to look toward to shape ourselves after. I think looking to the Ben Salem Police Department in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, and looking at the Breathe Act are good starting points just for us to figure out what we can reasonably borrow and apply to Lewisboro. Whatever our next steps are, I hope these conversations will happen regularly and we can join hands as a town to address some tough issues that we all care about together. So thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy. Next, I'm asking Allison Green to unmute.
Hi, can you hear me?
Your video. Yes, we can hear you.
I am Allison Green. I was in 9 years. I just want to...
Allison, we're having a hard time hearing you. Maybe you could move to a different room and I will put your hand, unmute you, and we'll try again in a minute. Laura Hammerstein, I'm asking you to unmute right now.
Hi, thank you for this forum and thank you for addressing these issues. My children went through the Lewisboro school system, and I have been fascinated listening at everything that everyone has said. And I hear about the compassion and the hard work that the Lewisboro Police Department has done. And I'm not really sure why this is set up as a this and them, why it's a defunding conversation when what we're really talking about is reimagining and reinventing. And although somebody said that before, I think that we've kind of lost that focus a little bit. So thank you, Jeremy and Joey and Trevor and some other people for bringing it back to that point. I think that training and education and being at the forefront for what the future is going to bring to Lewisboro and all towns around us is a really important thing. And that it's important to be thoughtful about these things. I think we want to look at a welcoming and safe Lewisboro for all people, not just white people, but for all people. And as the fabric changes and as we welcome more people into our community, it's very important that the people that are involved in keeping the populace safe are very well trained in de-escalation and are utilizing the resources such as social workers, of which I am one, to help them with those roles. Because as someone else said, you can't do everything. So let's bring in the other people who are also well trained in that way. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. And Allison Green, let's try one more time.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Allison Green and I live in South Salem. Before moving here, I was an EMT for 9 years. I responded to many emergencies involving EDPs and some violent crimes. We needed police on those calls to help with restraint. The police on the emergency calls were always very professional and their methods were effective. I feel that many people, including the patient, could have been injured without having them there. They were always the first on scene on these emergency calls, and they were usually already administering life-saving tactics, including CPR, where every second counts. I can't imagine volunteering as an EMT without having police present. I've had a few encounters with our police since moving here 5 years ago. Their community outreach has been outstanding, especially with children. K9 Zane is an asset to our town. My kids have all had the opportunity to meet Zane, Sergeant Llewellyn, and Chief Alfano. And like Rebecca said earlier, my kids look up to the police and first responders. We need to teach our children to respect the police and to show them that they are safe people. If you live here and have met our officers, I cannot imagine why you feel differently unless you are committing crimes. My only concern is that we do not have enough of them, especially in the current climate with an increase in crime and the vandalism in town and neighboring towns. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Allison. And Supervisor Parsons, that looks like that is the end of Hands Up.
In that case, I think we've covered most of the things I mentioned at the beginning. We've certainly had comments on the school resource officer. We've certainly had comments on opioids and domestic violence. And we've had plenty of comment on the police as first responders. The one thing we haven't heard much about is traffic control. If somebody wishes to speak about that, they are welcome. If the answer is nobody, then I'd like to move on. And
I have one hand raised, Peter.
okay.
Okay, I'm asking Chief Jim McManus to unmute.
Okay.
And start his video if you'd like.
Sorry, folks, I don't mean to double dip. Thanks, Mr. Parsons, for another opportunity to speak to you all. My personal opinion here would be that while they are super effective in their traffic stops, the only thing that we can really do to help them improving them is to give them more officers and more resources in order to better control the increasing amount of traffic that we have through town. I know here in Golden's Bridge, obviously COVID's affected it, but the traffic that we experience during rush hour, whether it be accessing 684 or the Metro North Station, is abhorrent and it's out of control. And we just don't have the manpower necessary in order to safely and properly correct that issue. So my opinion would be they do a fantastic job already, but if we can give them more resources to carry out that function of their job responsibility, I think that would be great. Thanks, folks.
Thank you.
Now I'm asking the Copias to unmute.
Hello, and thank you for the opportunity again. Yes, I would like to agree with that. They do need additional support for traffic. We've seen so many speeding vehicles on 123 especially. They think they're still on the Merritt Parkway, and they do not want to regard our area as a residential area. And there's just no way that one officer on duty at a time can be in all places at once. It is a problem. We've seen so many cars pass vehicles just out of sheer, they're just not patient enough, and they don't feel that vehicles are being driving fast enough on our country roads, and so they cross people on a double yellow and almost cause accidents. And it's not an exaggeration, it happens. We see it happen all the time in front of our business and in other places, and they need additional support to help keep our roads safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Next I have Joanne Ines. I'm asking you to unmute, Joanne.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak again. The traffic is an issue. I'd like them to address the middle school and high school quadrants right there at pickup and drop off on Monday, Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays. It's insane. Someone's gonna get killed. We've got juniors and senior drivers that need to pick up their younger students at the middle school siblings. It's an issue. Also, the straightaway from 138 to 684 from Main Street, Pond Street up. There's the bend that you come around from the Connecticut drivers. Dangerous, extremely dangerous. I see the police, our LPD, doing the best that they can. I don't know what the solution is, but you've got buses dropping off and picking up on those roads and people just not paying attention. Thank you for the time to address the traffic issues. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Joanne. Next I have Lisa Rotundi. Asking you to unmute.
I also just wanted to add in that obviously town traffic ticketing is an incredible profit resource for the town. And, you know, obviously we still need police officers on duty managing the roads. I live off of Route 35, and after 11 o'clock at night, I mean, I keep my windows open in this nice weather and it literally sounds like a NASCAR racetrack. And that's it.
All right, thank you. Next, I'm asking Joey Jason to unmute. Joey?
All right. Yep. So as I said before, I work with them, but it involves me being on the side of the road on a constant basis. And what I will say is there is pretty much no road that enters or leaves this town that does not have a massive problem with speeding. You got 124 that goes that way. You have 123, everyone coming from Connecticut, Route 35, all the way down by 684 and up to Ridgefield. You have 121 North coming through North Salem there. The problem is it's physically impossible for them to be able to counter that without having people on all those areas. They could put up the signs that tell you the speed, but unless those things actually take speeding ticket pictures, it's not going to do anything. You know, people come on, kind of get smart to the fact that it doesn't, you know, take your license plate photo if they don't get a ticket in the mail. So basically, it's a physical impossibility for them to tackle every single road like that, which there's a lot of them, without them having more manpower on the streets to deal with it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jerry. Next up is Robin Legenzowski. I'm asking you to unmute, Robin.
Hi, in case no one realizes, I'm at home. My daughter goes to school remote. On Facebook, every single day, people are horrified by the traffic situation outside of the middle school and the high school at drop off and pickup. It's a conversation that goes on and on and on. I'm sure they report it to the school. Can't imagine they don't. But to ignore it when we're in this situation with the middle school and high school, we finally got double tripping back, and then now everyone's not taking the bus and everyone's driving. I think we need to address that. And I think that, I don't know if this, all that money we pay to the school that we can't afford town services because of, should be going towards that type of trafficking, because it shouldn't, if it happens, you know, you've been warned a million times. So if we can't even put somebody out there, it's actually a little ridiculous. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Robin. Now I'm asking Fabio to unmute.
Yes, regarding the traffic, I live in 35 off of Tisoway, the school for kids. There's a 55 mile per hour zone, and people go 80 because this route is just off Connecticut, and we have all that traffic in the morning, and from 4 in the morning, these trucks start passing by. It's about time because people drop the kids at the school, but traffic is still very fast. And we have a passway there in front of my house. Before I moved here 6 years ago, there was a fatality in front of my house. And I mean, every time I come home, even my wife goes around the block so she can make a ride instead of going through the line. So I don't know, it's a school, it's kids' school, and we still have 55 speed zone. I don't know why. It should be less. I just think about it. I don't know, just gonna put that on. Thank you.
Thank you, Fabio. Next, I'm asking Ed to unmute.
Yeah,
And to share your video if you'd like.
Yeah, can you hear me? I think I'm.
Yes, we can.
All right, great. I just want to start off and say this whole, you know, defunding of the police is ridiculous. It's a non-starter in my opinion. You cannot do that. It's a nationwide push to do that. How it made it up here to Golden's Bridge is a mystery to me, but even a topic of discussion. But here we are, right? So my support is behind 100% behind the Lewisboro Police Department, 1,000%. So you have my vote any day of the week. We need more police. Actually, you have 4 major roadways cutting through Golden's Bridge, right? You have 138, 123, Route 35, and portions of 684. They need to be patrolled heavily, day and night. Enforcement applied, high visibility, have the police out there and let them do their jobs. That's just me. I mean, I have the utmost respect. So I just want to get that out there. But once again, and I'll wrap it up with, I have to say, I'm hearing this, we hear it every day on TV. We see it in the news. We read about it in the papers. We hear it from people talking, especially in the school districts. Is defund the police. It's insanity. It's absolutely ridiculous. So just want to get that out there. Once again, Lewisboro PD, keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Next, I'm asking Adam Oakes to unmute.
Good evening, everyone. Adam Oakes, Hamlet of Vista. Just to be full disclosure, I have a background in law enforcement, emergency services, also locally and elsewhere. And I come from a family of law enforcement officers as well. But in terms of traffic, this is just another priority to completely fund the police department, LPD, and to give them the resources they need. Traffic stops are highly dangerous for our police officers. They are put at risk when they do stop the vehicle because it's an unknown. So they need that extra patrol out there to back them up. They need that backup for those stops. I mean, any other police department in the country does this. And for them to put themselves at risk like that, we need to give them the support, especially the support and the resources that they do need. And the priority should be officer safety first. First and foremost, it should be officer safety. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. That appears it, Peter, for hands up for this session.
All right. First of all, just one comment. As far as I know, there is the talk about defund the police exists in many major cities in the country. It has never been brought up even in the town of Lewisboro. Certainly not in the hearing of my police chief, who seems to have other ideas, far more like what people in this meeting are expressing. Next, the next meeting of this committee, and this is a committee meeting only, would be in the last week of October, and I'll send out a memo giving the exact date. And it would be to consider a draft of new police policy, of a revised police policy, probably on use of force, because I think that's possibly the most important thing to move through immediately. Next, I'd like to poll the committee.
Peter, can I just interrupt for a minute?
Yes.
I have two people whose hands are up. One is a committee member. Maybe we could wait for that.
Yes, but who's the other?
I have Rich K. Can I
Okay.
ask him to unmute? Rich K, I'm asking you to unmute.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I just wanted to say how much I do support the Lewisboro Police Department. I feel very safe in this town. I have sent the last few weeks, some food from Cameron's. I sent a few pizzas. I'm taking money out of my own pocket because I think these guys go to work each day. They don't know if they're coming home. And we live in one of the safest towns in Westchester. And to even think about saying that they're not doing everything 100% right when I'm not aware of any litigation, that there's been abuse of force and people have sued because the police are too rough. And I haven't heard anything about that. I'm just saying, instead of making people not want to be law enforcement, maybe we should support what they're doing and acknowledge how much risk every traffic stop is, and every person, I don't know. I don't really understand why we're moving this direction where we're being so anti-police and so judgmental, when in our town specifically, I'm not aware of any issues, and I feel safe. I feel safe walking around the town. I'm not worried, I'm going to get robbed. And if there's an issue, I've had issues. I've called them. They've come very quickly. So I just want to say to all the Lewisboro police, just there are sane people in town that support you guys, and just all I could say is God bless.
All right, thank you.
All right, I have two, Peter. I'm
Okay.
sorry, I have two more.
I thought you'd called it to a close, sorry.
Andrea Rendo has her hand up.
Well, yes, but she's going to be asked when we poll the committee.
Okay, so I'm going to lower her hand then, and she can speak later. And then Jane Crimmins, I'm asking Jane to unmute.
Yeah. Is that okay?
Jane, can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, I just wanted to say good evening to everybody and apologize for not being on camera. I didn't realize that was the expectation for board members, and I was shuffling bedtime and all of that. I want to let everybody know that I was listening, and I want to thank the members of the committee particularly for showing up this evening, listening to what people have to say, listening closely, and your service on behalf of the town in this matter. It's not an easy job, and I appreciate it. So I've been listening, and again, thanks to everybody. And thank you, Janet, for squeezing me in there.
You're welcome.
All right, polling the committee. First of all, Richard Sclaren, have you anything you'd like to say?
Hold on, I have to find him to unmute him.
I'm going to start at the bottom of the list and work my way up.
Okay, I'm getting to you, Richard. I'm asking you to unmute. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Good evening, everybody. Just want to thank you for the appointment to this committee. I look forward to serving in this role on behalf of the town.
Okay, next, I think Dr. Biswas had to leave to look after his children. Am I correct?
Yes.
All right. Ron Ross, anything you'd like to say?
Hold on, I'm finding him to unmute. Ron, I'm asking you to unmute.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
It was interesting. I was amazed that, one, I'm not amazed at the overwhelming support for the police, but it was really deja vu of how many why are we even this a discussion, why bring outside politics into a local matter when they would then dig the town council or the supervisor for even doing this. On the one hand, we live in this perfect community, and yet it's naivete to hear the discussion of the young lady who spoke about the Sebastian incident. We don't have that. Why bring politics here? I'm older than most of the people on the committee. And I remember in the 60s, in the civil rights movement, why do we have these outside people, coming down south to agitate? So why would we bring national politics in to our perfect community in Lewisboro? It should be interesting. That's about all I'll have to say at this point.
Andrea Rendo, sorry.
Yep, I'm getting to Andrea. Andrea, I'm asking you to unmute. Yep.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Andrea Rundo. I want to send a thank you to Peter Parsons for allowing me to serve on this committee. I want to also say hello to the committee members that I haven't yet met in person. So hello to all of you. I want to thank hi, Rich. I want to thank all the participants in tonight's meeting. We had well over, I think, 130 participants at one point. So thank you to everyone for your input, and I expect that there will be more as it goes. I just want to show you all something. Here I put together, I printed out my booklet, How having to do with this committee, and I put it in a binder. This is how big it is. This is what we all have to read, which I'm sure we've all started to read. Yes, there we go. There are so many questions, over 90 pages worth of questions and inquiries for this committee to make. And we will do our best to keep everyone informed. But this is the Committee on Police Reform and Reinvention, based on the Police Reform and Reinvention Collaborative. And I wanted to read part of it, which says, the purpose of the New York State Police Reform and Reinvention Collaborative is to foster trust, fairness, and legitimacy within communities throughout the state, and to address any racial bias and disproportionate policing of communities of color. That is in their mission statement on the first page. And I think that based on what I know about everybody on this committee, that we will be able to keep that in mind, and based on our experiences and what I know about everyone's background, that we take this job very seriously. We take the input of the community very seriously, and we are going to complete this task as long as it takes. Well, we have until April 1st, right, Dave, to submit our report, but we look forward to receiving more input and presenting what our findings are to the town again prior to its submission. So thank you, Peter Parsons. Thank you to the town board for our appointment, and everybody have a great rest of the week.
Thank you, Andrea. I'm not sure Moira Morrissey is in fact here. Is she?
I don't believe so.
All right, I'm going to go on to Greg Monteleone.
Greg, I ask you to mute.
He was here at one stage.
I'm here.
Under the name Katie.
Mr. Parsons. I look forward to working with this committee, and I thought it was very informative and helpful to listen to all the residents tonight discuss the issues about the police department. And I look forward to contributing a great deal to this committee and helping to serve the town, make it a better place, which is an amazing place.
Thank you, Greg. Can we go back to Amira, because I gather she is on.
Okay.
Or our police chief has spotted her.
Hold on a second. I need to know, is it under Maura? I'm not finding it under.
Her hands up. Her hands up.
What page, Jill? 1? Okay, there you are.
Great. Moira, is there anything you'd like to add?
I'm sorry, I've had trouble all evening with the video, but I got on about 7:15, so I've heard most of the meeting. I'm glad you were able to find me and to see that I had my hand raised. A very interesting evening. I found all of the comments worth listening to, and I look forward to working with all of you. Thank you.
Andrew Llewellyn?
Yep, I'm asking Andrew to mute.
There we go. Thank you, Mr. Parsons. I want to really thank the residents for speaking up tonight, for their input, and look forward to bringing this all back. And concerns that were brought up tonight, we can discuss at our upcoming meeting. Thank you.
All right. The Reverend Nikki Edelman.
Yes, I'm asking Nikki to unmute. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to be on this committee. Supervisor Parsons, and hello to everyone else on the committee. I'm new to town. I moved here a year ago, September 1st. So it's been an education for me this evening to hear the comments of our residents. And I am glad to be a part of the committee and hope that coming from a faith perspective, I can offer something unique to what's the work of this committee, very important work. So I look forward to working with all of you. Thank you.
Charlotte, I'm asking you to unmute. There you are,
Hi,
Charlotte.
I'm Charlotte. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Parsons, for inviting me to join this committee. I've been in this town over 20 years. I've raised my children here. The meeting was interesting is an understatement, and I'm left feeling sad. So I'm looking forward to working with this committee, and I took a lot of notes. The idea that Lewisboro is this perfect little town, I can tell you as a Black woman living here for 20 years, it is not. I've had many instances of racism directed towards me, never by police officers, but certainly by other residents in this community. And so hopefully we can have discussion on how we can bring education into our school districts and into our police department to help educate the members of our community. So I look forward to working with you all.
Thank you, Charlotte. Patty D'Agostino.
Yep, let me just, there she is, Patty.
Next to Dan.
Yep. Hi, Patty.
Hi, thank you for the appointment to the committee. I think that we heard some very passionate and sincere support for the local police department. And I just want to assure the community that this is not an exercise against the police department. By far, this is an exercise in support of the police department. This is an exercise to help create either systems or provide some training in certain issues that perhaps don't exist. And it's not a criticism. It is simply that it's a different world right now. We are far more aware of a lot of more issues. Lewisboro Police Department has been very much a participant in the risk reduction team for lethality in domestic violence in the past couple of years, which has resulted in a wonderful expansion across Westchester County. There's a lot that can be done, and there's a lot that can start in Lewisboro. And Lewisboro can rather be an example for the rest of Westchester. It's not a criticism at all. Thank you.
Thanks. Dave?
I'm getting to you, Dave. Give me a minute. There you go, Chief.
Hi, everybody. I just want to thank everybody for coming out tonight and taking the time and speaking a comment or just listening. And it's been nice to meet everybody in the committee. Looking forward to working with everybody. And I as well took about 3 pages of notes, so we've got a lot of work to do. I'm looking forward to working with everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. I would like to make one comment. We've got a first-class police department, and I don't think this committee is going to begin to defund them. But at the same time, like every department and any body of people, they are not perfect. And it is up to this committee to search out ways that we can actually improve the police department's performance. In theory, we could come up and say there isn't anywhere, but I suspect there is. And that's what we're going to sit down and try to make happen over the next few months. Thank you very much for coming. Have a good night. Thank you, Janet.